Our participation will cost the taxpayer $14 million. We hear from the minister who says, despite the current economic challenges, it is fully worth the cost.
Mr. Speaker, whichever way we look at revenue and expenditure commitments for Qatar 2022, the benefits of playing in the World Cup far outweighs the expenditure with several other unquantifiable benefits.
In the rare show of unity, both the minority and majority leaders are pledging their support to the team.
So Mohammed Kudus also holds promise. So Minister, be assured that we will support the Black Stars. And we must commend the technical people and the other handlers of the team. The qualification, as I said at the very outset, was a bit checkered, but we managed to pull through.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. The biting economic crisis has not spared Parliament. This has left the House deeply divided on a host of matters. But today, both sides of the political divide found a common uniting cause: support for Ghana's participation at the World Cup in just 16 days in Qatar. It comes on the day the sports minister disclosed it will cost the taxpayer $14 million if the team manages to get to the semi-final stage. According to the youth and sports minister, Mustafa Yusuf, despite the current economic difficulties facing the country, the expenditure is worth it.
For our group stages participation in the tournament, covering 3 games against Portugal, Uruguay, and South Korea, our group stage appearance will cost us as a nation an estimated amount of $8,166,200 United States dollars, with our side firmly fixed on progressing throughout the knockout stages. And I'm delighted to give more good news. Mr. Speaker, progressing from the group stage to the round of 16th will increase Ghana prize money from $9 million US dollars to $13 million US dollars. At this stage, our expenditure is likely to increase to $8,792,600 United States dollars. Mr. Speaker, when we progress from the round of 16th to quarterfinals, the prize money will also increase from $13 million US dollars to $17 million US dollars. At this stage, our expenditure will also likely to increase from the $8,792,600 to $9,512,200 United States dollars. If we progress from the quarterfinals to the last 4, Ghana stands to receive $27 million United States dollars to $42 million US dollars. At this stage, we estimated a combined expenditure for the tournament at $14,184,100 United States dollars. This estimated expenditure includes appearance fees, bonuses, per diem, flight arrangement, medical equipment, logistics, and hospitality. Mr. Speaker, whichever way we look at revenue and expenditure commitments for Qatar 2022, the benefits of playing in the World Cup far outweighs the expenditure with several other unquantifiable benefits. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the entire country that in these difficult economic challenges that we face, every penny will be used judiciously, and we have agreed with the FA that we will maintain the compensation, that is appearance fees, bonuses, as it was used in 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Mr. Speaker, additionally, club of each player will also be given daily amount of $10,000 United States dollars throughout the tournament of the player, and these are money that FIFA will be paying to the players.
So detailed breakdown there of the cost to the country when it comes to the participation. But we'll break it down for you a bit more because it appears that we'll make a lot of this back because FIFA, of course, will pay us for qualifying to the World Cup. My colleague from the sports desk will join me to break it down for you. But in a rare show of unity, many things divide the House in Parliament. Well, this is not one that divides the House. There's unity among both the minority and majority sides. I want to first listen to Harun Idrisu, who has been speaking on this matter on the floor after the minister laid out what the budget is.
Ghana, it will be a tough test for the Black Stars, but they should survive the test with our country's support, with technical and tactical discipline. We do have a team that can compete favorably, either with Portugal or with Uruguay. But Speaker, my own view, if Uruguay was to be replayed today, and our rematch with Uruguay should be seen as a rematch of 2010 in South Africa when we were denied that golden opportunity. Mr. Speaker, today, even what Suarez did in football today, the referee should whistle a goal, not a penalty. My view is that the referee ought not to have said that it was a penalty. I mean, if you give where the ball ballooned to and where his hand was, he should have just whistled a goal for Ghana. But we cannot reverse the events of time and what happened in particular. So Mohamed Kudus also holds promise. So Minister, be assured that we will support the Black Stars. The country is united around you against the GFA, against the Black Stars, to make our country proud. But I think that you have to strengthen the goalkeeping if there is still room to allow Abubakar Damba, who is also a noted goalkeeper trainer, to be able to support Kingston, to be able to do that particular role. I also see that you are announcing some additional names. I've seen Tariq Lamte, very, very encouraging. And then the GFA itself, you have to monitor them to ensure player discipline while they are in camp, things that they can do and cannot do before a match.
And that's Harun Idrisu there. What about the majority leader, Chairman Sabonsu?
The tactical disposition and the technical disposition of the players and the technical people, when they combine together in a very harmonious way, Speaker, that team that has it could always beat the best team in the world. And that is what we saw. The preparation towards Qatar has been, thus far, very good, as the minister has said. And it's fortunate for us as a country that in the lead up to this tournament, we have not seen or heard any rumpers in the camp of the Black Stars. Speaker, and that is very, very impressive. The scouting for the team was also very phenomenal. How the technical people opened their doors to welcome every Ghanaian player everywhere who has the capability to join the team. Speaker, very commendable. And that explains why we have many people from various countries who have assembled to wear the colors of the Black Stars. But that in itself also poses another problem, because bringing players from all parts of the country, different leagues, and wielding and welding them together is also another task for the technical people. The team preparation has been serene and peaceful thus far, and we must commend the technical people and the other handlers of the team. The qualification, as I said at the very outset, was a bit checkered, but we managed to pull through. This is the second time Ghana has triumphed over Nigeria in a very crucial penultimate game.
Well, my colleagues from the sports desk are joining me to break this down for you with 16 days to go now. Fencho is here with me. Also, Nathaniel Ato also joins me in the studio. Fent, let's start with the budget part of this. So, the first round of matches in the group stages will cost us is $8 million. If you manage to get to the finals, semi-finals, that's $14 million. The minister argues that this is value for money. This is something that will pay itself, right? Because somehow.
Yeah, as it's always been the case for World Cup competitions. So basically, any budget that the government has made or the Ministry of Youth and Sports has made for the World Cup is a form of pre-financing the competition, because every aspect of the FIFA World Cup is fully funded. So flight tickets will be paid for by FIFA. In fact, FIFA provides every member association up to 55 first-class tickets. And then accommodation for same.
So this will be players, the FA officials,
yes, technical officials, and
First
what have
class.
you. But they have a cap, of course, and that cap is 55. So any additional members you're taking, of course, will be on your own cost. But all of these things will have to be pre-financed. In fact, for hotel and flight and all of those ones, you don't even necessarily need to pay out of your pocket in the pre-financing arrangement. You can basically reach out to the people and get an invoice and submit it to FIFA. FIFA would pay that money themselves.
Have we
but
selected our hotel already?
Yes, I think those things are often
Okay,
sorted way before the competition even starts. I think where the biggest chunk of our budget goes into, it's not the things that FIFA pays for or pre-finances, that we have to pre-finance for FIFA to reimburse us. It's usually the aspects where we have to cough out of our own pockets, and those usually have to do with appearance fees. Now, these appearance fees, of course, is usually the monies that we pay to the players. Okay, so FIFA would pay, as it stands now, 9 million for the group stages, which means that if we go to Qatar and we lose all 3 matches, to Portugal, Uruguay, and South Korea, and we come home, we can concede 100 million goals.
You still get $9 million.
We still get that guaranteed $9 million. All right. Now, before that $9 million is paid, the minister says we would have spent 8.1 million.
So we are making a profit.
No, we really are. And so somebody would be wondering, how are we spending $8 million in 3 games, basically maximum of 12 days at the competition? Basically, usually, that is where the question is. How are you spending 8.1 million in 12 days? Well, I'll tell you what. The chunk of that money would go into paying, for example, appearance fees for players. Now, the minister has already said that the appearance fees that the players will take at this competition will be same as they did in Brazil. Now, if we're working the numbers, it means that in Brazil, each player walked away with $100,000 each.
Okay, so that's the same one. That's for those who are wondering. That's the same tournament where we saw a player
No,
smelling
that was
the
the
cash.
same tournament we flew the money.
Yeah, and one player was smelling the cash.
That was the 100,000 he got. Yes.
So for the 3 games, $100,000.
Yes, for the 3 games, just for going to the World Cup. So if you're named in that 26-man squad, you're guaranteed $100,000. That's why there's a lot of, back dealings and what have you, because just by being included in the list, guaranteed, each player and official will get $100,000.
Oh, so this is not only the players, but the
No.
FA
Officials get some
also going.
too. Yeah, officials get some too. And you remember the famous coefficient? That was how they shared the money to some management members. But officials, including coaches, scouts, backroom staff, a lot of them get a share of that money. So imagine if you take 26 players and each of them is getting $100,000 by 26. That's already 2.6 million. You add officials, we could have as many as 11 officials. You add that money, you're already looking at almost $4 million of that $8 million that's been budgeted going into paying just
and then FA
appearance
officials, etc., that would also travel.
So you can see that half of the money is already finished. Just by paying appearance fees. And then you look at all the other aspects. So now we are giving 1.5 million to prepare the team for the competition. FIFA pays that. Every country that qualifies, FIFA pays them $1.5 million to use to prepare for the team. Now, it is possible that your preparation can cost you more than the 1.5 million, depending on what you're doing. So if we are camping in Abu Dhabi. If we go for a 5-star fancy hotel and we say we are sending maybe a team of 50 people there, because you're looking at cooks, you're looking at masseurs, you're looking at quite a number of people, and you have maybe a total of 55 people there, okay, and they're staying there, let's even say for a minimum of 10 days. Maybe we will spend more than 1.5 million. So then you have to complement that with whatever you budgeted. So when you look at the total expenditure of how to prepare a team for the World Cup and what goes on at the World Cup itself, in Ghana's case, the 8 million actually looks quite small.
Yeah, I mean,
in my opinion.
I mean, not the backroom stuff. You know, what do you know anything about in terms
Okay.
of the numbers that we may be taking?
I covered our last participation. I covered a couple of games during Brazil 2014, and I've been sharing this story with many people. I remember very well that after the game, when Ghana drew 2-2 against Germany, I was standing in the the mixed zone area looking to get some interviews. I did a few. I did one with Miroslav Klose. I did one with Adam Lassen Kwarase. At the time, he was very frustrated because he was not included in that game. And one of the things that struck me about the German squad or their side was the vastness of the backroom staff. Now, if you'd realize, it's a thing with them where they like to wear black outfits, all black outfits, the German backroom staff. And I kept counting them, and I mean, like proverbial ant battalions just moving out. And I was asking myself, wow, that many? And I tried to find out a little more. And for instance, there are a minimum of about 4 to 6 physiotherapists working with the team. Okay? There are video analysts. There are, there are scouts. Okay. There is there's a leadership structure when it comes to the technical team. There's the head himself, and then he's got his assistants, and there's quite a number of them. But all of this boils down to the depth of your pocket and the financial muscle and what you can put together. You understand? So, for instance, you speak to some of the Black Stars players, and they'll tell you that, look, when they're in camp, and they have, like, for instance, one masseuse, the one that Fento alluded to, then you're in a fix because there's training. There are time schedules where everything has to be done. And then players need to be massaged. Players need their muscles to be toned properly. And you have only one masseuse to work on how many players ahead of the match day? It becomes a problem. And then when you look in this list as well, one missing element is a team psychologist. Now, another thing that, and if you go around and you ask, they'll tell you that ideally the minimum number of team psychologists we should have should be 2. In the Joy Sports World Cup tales, in the interviews that I've been running, I remember that we spoke to Dr. Yao Infojo, who's the very first, team psychologist. He's a psychiatrist by training, but he's the very first team psychologist who, traveled with the Black Stars to the World Cup in Germany. And he shares many stories with you, and he told me a story about Asamoah Gyan and the very first goal that he scores that has now become a part of our folklore and our history. And he told me about how he sat with Asamoah Gyan and they devised a few exercises, psychological exercises that they had to do. Interestingly, all the other strikers were like, "Oh yeah, it's one of those things." And Asamoah Gyan corroborated this story. These are interviews that we'll be playing on our channel. Okay, he corroborated the story. He said, look, that day when the team psychologist was talking to him, he found something worthy in what he was telling him,
Which inspired him
to go and train. So what he said was that he practiced after the official training. He practiced for like an hour and a half. And so when he was going into that game against Czech Republic, he was very definite and very sure he was going to score. And the team psychologist also told me that ahead of the last training session, when he rated Asamoah Gyan was at 90%. So he was also very, very sure that he was going to score. So you see, all I'm trying to say is that football is a total operation. And because of our inadequacies, financial inadequacies, we seem to draw, dirt, or we seem to, try to question.
Yeah.
Or,
but I need to ask though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whilst you say that, Fenty, you can address it for me. So the thing that is questioned the most is the $100,000 that you mentioned, the appearance fee. Should we be paying $100,000? Because you listen to other, what's happening, say with the English national team, etc. You get a sense that for the players who they're called up, it's a national service. I've never heard a conversation about appearance fees when it comes to, say, the English national team or the U.S. national team before. You always hear this, almost always, about from the African national teams when they go, right? I mean, so what really is it? I mean, because $100,000 for 3 games is a lot of money, right? I mean, so, even if you're playing in the EPL, right, you're playing 3 games. So $100,000.
It's still significant.
It's still very significant, right? So think about it.
Because Evans, before Fen comes in, please do remember that when you have a squad of, let's say, like 26 players, the likelihood that you're going to have players who are high earners and are within the bracket of maybe £80,000 a week to maybe £150,000 a week is very, very low compared to players who play in the English national team. That is the variation. Okay. But Finto, take that point.
Yeah, but Finto can address it for me. Isn't that's where almost the questions come up?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a legit question, but I think it's a microcosm of what's happening overall. Because if you go elsewhere, in Germany today or in England today, nobody's discussing budget.
No, but of course, because in the context of ours,
it does tell you where all of our fixations are as a country, because we fixate so much of money. But ultimately, the World Cup, it should be a matter of pride. In fact, all around the world, when you play any sport, especially at international level, it's a matter of pride, much more than it is a matter of financial expediency. You're looking at the Olympic Games. The IOC doesn't even pay you for winning a gold medal.
You just get a gold medal.
You just get a gold medal. That itself is a big pride. The World Championship, you don't get any prize money unless you break a world record. So that's a big deal. So it is only the FIFA World Cup that actually pays for both participation and winning. And we're always having this conversation about money, and is it wise to spend this much money? Because within us, it is an acceptance that we're not going to do well. Because here's the truth. All this budget that the minister has put out there, truly, if we concentrated on preparing a team that is strong enough to win the World Cup, nobody will be discussing this budget. You know why? Because this budget would not even be half of what we could have gained from winning the competition. Because if you win this competition, you get $42 million.
That will do a lot for our economy.
$42 million. But you see, no one is talking about that because why? That is an acceptance from ourselves that we can't win. And the players know that. So then they're also looking at how can we gain anything out of this competition, knowing full well that we're not going to win.
Okay.
So then the issue of appearance fees come. And this appearance fee is a very moral argument to be had. I really don't think that it's a practical matter. I think it's an issue of moral. So look at 2014, for example. Before the World Cup, we go to pre-tournament camp. We play against the Netherlands. A player who was named in the squad goes in for a challenge. He comes down, breaks a leg, doesn't go to the World Cup, and his career is practically ruined after that.
Very well.
Right? So that was a career-ending incident that happened to him on national team duty. So he was unable to have any decent career right after that. So if you give such a person, or if you think along those lines and you say, for this risk, let's give you $100,000 for your efforts, knowing full well in the back of our minds that any step onto the pitch could be the end of that player's career, then you would see a certain logical argument to have.
But in all you said, it's important to note tonight that we haven't increased our appearance fees for the players since the last World Cup
in 2014.
In 2014, the last World Cup that we participated
that we participated.
It's been what, 8 years?
It has been 2014 to now.
8 years, and we keep it. And also
because the dollar hasn't depreciated in value.
Of course, the dollar is the dollar. Yes, of course. And also the $8 million we are spending for the group stages, we'll get it back. In fact, we make profit on that. Once we are reimbursed by FIFA.
And Evans, let's remember that in 2010...
So this is an austere World Cup budget, it appears.
It really is, because I'm looking at the numbers here. 2014, our budget that a free Ankara presented to Parliament at the time was 9.6 million.
For the group stages?
Yeah.
So that's...
No, the group stage, no, it was the total budget for the whole competition. The group stage, it was 4.09 million, And then for the knockout stages, we were supposed to spend an additional 5 million. In 2010, that was what caused the biggest uproar. $19 million was budgeted. But even that still isn't as significant as what Senegal, for example, are taking to this current World
How
Cup.
much?
$21 million.
Okay.
And they presented the minister presented the budget in October, just last month. And they're taking a contingent of 327 people.
Very well.
What?
So
Senegal.
Yeah.
Say that again.
300 and over 300 people.
327.
So you see, this is
How
this
many?
is-
Do we know how many people we are taking? Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Look, Evan, so that's why I'm telling you that football is a total operation that has many branches and many arms. If you want to get it right, we should know that it is an investment. All the nations who have been successful at the FIFA World Cup make investments that run over time. And if you decide to quantify it in money terms, it will not be possible. Let me give you an example. Now, in the juvenile ranks, for instance, Ghana has scored a few notable victories over almighty Brazil in the years when Brazil was struggling to dominate in the juvenile ranks. The late coach Ike Afrani, God bless his soul, was flown over to Brazil back in the mid-2000s to go and explain to them how he managed to beat them. That is how thorough and how scientific other nations are when it comes to the investments they make in football. And also to buttress a point that Finto made earlier about players and the relativity of their economic standing, based on which we shouldn't put too much pressure on them, is that look at a player like Michael Essien, for instance. Some of his biggest injuries were recorded within the Black Stars camp. You understand me? So I think that we need to look at it in a more holistic manner and look at peer. We need to do peer review as well. Senegal, look at the investment.
I mean, for me, really, at a time like this when the economy is battered, people are suffering, it is the social capital that this gives us, the World Cup participation.
Absolutely.
The joy that you feel, you immediately forget that you haven't eaten the whole day. You
That's
know,
the point.
And that's the thing. That
And Evans, in 10 seconds.
The country desperately needs something
Evans,
to cheer about.
in 10
Absolutely.
seconds, I think that we should also start hinging our development as a nation on research. Why haven't we sat back, done various papers on our participations from 2006 and the kind of ripple effect it has on our economy? We've been talking about tourism for like forever. We have to wait for Nana Akufo-Addo to go and make a statement that this is the year of return. Come here. We have to wait for Sarkodie to go and receive an award at MTV Base and invite everybody. But guess what? The FIFA World Cup is the biggest advertisement we can give to Ghana. And you know how much other nations are raking from tourism? We'll discuss that later.
Thank you very much. Nat, thank you very much too. We have 16 days to go for the World Cup. Now we know the budget. What's your take on this? 0551111